There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
This is Joseph Schafer from Colony Drop, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, aka the Bodfather, and as always, I bring you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today I have on the line with me Colony Drop, and they will release their 35-minute debut album entitled Brace for Impact on August 25th via Nameless Grave Records. And today I welcome Joseph Schafer, vocalist of Colony Drop. And we're going to be talking to him about all this bad boy. So Joseph, welcome to the podcast, and how you doing, my friend?
Doing good, John. Thank you so much for reaching out and having me. Really cool to be here with you.
That's not a problem whatsoever, man. I'm always glad to help out. I feel like I'm that little voice for the bands who need that person that won't, that will actually give them the time of day. So I feel like I'm doing my job.
Well, we appreciate it. It's first album. It's hard to. There's more music than ever now, it seems, and more good music than ever, right? So many talented people. And so it's kind of tough to get out there and get noticed. So we appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone listening to this for the same reason.
And just like my previous interview, we were talking about how there's so many bands that are on Spotify that are so good that are just doing it themselves. And I go back and I listen to some of these, I'm going, how's this band not signed? And then, how's this band not signed? And it's like, it's a different beast. It's a different world now than what it was back in the early heydays of, playing your music and getting signed in a bar or something like that. So everything's changed so much, man.
It's absolutely different than even it could have been 5 years ago.
Sure.
Spotify is this incredibly massive platform. Like, is it good for, if you're trying to make a living, Spotify is probably to your detriment, right? But if you're a band like us, where, Brace for Impact is totally self-funded, we're a small, hardworking group of people, for someone like us, tools like that, Bandcamp, they're a real blessing. Much respect to Nameless Grave for signing us, of course, but Brace for Impact was done before we spoke to them.
Mm-hmm. When you think back about this band and when it came together in 2019, what was your realistic expectations for it, or did you have any at that time?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you brought that up, because we didn't have any, I don't know, as far as expectations, but our goals were very different, right? Like, when we came together, the thought was, let's put a live set together as fast as we can and just play like some sloppy punk shows for fun right away. Like, the early songs that are not on the record or have been rewritten so much that they barely resemble the first versions we practiced. They were goofy, and we have a sense of humor, right? But they weren't goofy on purpose. They were goofy out of whatever, we're just trying to play the bar, right? So who cares? That was the goal at the start. And, pandemic. Yeah. Guess we can't do that. Let's do something else. So that's what happened. We've already beat the expectations we had when we were first talking about let's just put a live set together and play some shows. We've already done that now. So blue sky territory, man. Sky's the limit at this point.
Was the pandemic hard for this band? I mean, after having this album and all that stuff, I mean, how difficult was that for this band?
If I'm honest, this isn't to sound callous or insensitive to anyone, because obviously the pandemic was a tragedy.
Sure.
But in terms of like the band itself, the pandemic is weirdly like maybe the best thing that ever happened to us, because we had nothing to do but focus, right? I don't really know what it was, but it was, there was probably that first month, March of 2020, I think, where we weren't seeing anybody. We were just in our apartments with our wives and significant others, etc. Our roommates at the time for some of us, right? And then, when we started to feel comfortable enough to be like, okay, we could go to this space, stay far apart, keep our masks on, and try the songs out. We had this conversation that was like, do we want to just like maybe put all these songs on a task cam and call it for however long this lasts, or do we want to like commit? And Ari wasn't in the band at that time. We found him later. So our two guitarists are Ryan and Ben, and our drummer's name is Eric. And it was unanimous on the chat thread instantly. Let's go for it. Let's drill. And we kind of shifted overnight from goofing around to almost like military discipline of like, let's drill the songs, let's make them better, let's improve everything, let's become better musicians. If only just because we needed to blow off steam, we needed something besides like the world to focus on, and we needed friend time. And in some ways, for me at least, I'm just going to hang out with someone. It seemed irresponsible, but like, no, we have an art project. We're working towards something. That seemed like a good use of my time, even if it was partially to express my feelings and blow off steam. And I think that was true for all the guys. So in that respect, I'm not thankful for the pandemic, but I don't think Brace for Impact would exist if it wasn't for the pandemic. How's that?
Yeah, there's so many bands that said the same thing that you just said right there. It's just, it was a blessing for bands, not that they wanted it to happen, but they feel like some of their best material had been written, in a long time. A lot of these bands were going 1,000 miles an hour. They're lucky enough to get in a studio album and create another masterpiece than what we're accustomed to now. You know what I'm saying? So
totally. I mean, I think a lot of these like large bands, especially if you're like a larger band on like a Metal Blade,
yeah,
or a Century Media, like my understanding is that those musicians have deadlines, that they need to hit their deadlines for financial reasons, right? And so, for those people, I think being able to take time and focus and rewrite and revise is a luxury they don't always have. And I don't blame them, right? But for us, I'm thankful that we had 3 years where there was nothing hanging over our head, beyond like life, which is terrifying, right? Mm-hmm. But there was no reason for us to hold back on anything with regard to songwriting. There was no reason for us not to take every riff apart note by note and be like, is this the best thing we could do with this right now? And we really did go over everything with kind of a fine-tooth comb. And I'm thankful for that.
How excited are you guys to have your new album entitled Brace for Impact getting ready to drop on August 25th? And did the album turn out exactly the way you guys wanted it to?
Nothing ever turns out exactly how you have it in your mind. That's just not how like life works. There's always quirks in the recording and the mastering and the, there's a certain amount of controlled chaos that is a part of like a project, right? But I think we're all like overjoyed with what we got, and are we excited to have it out there? Fuck yeah, we are. We're like really fucking happy to have it. We're really proud of it. It's just like a fun kind of arty thrash record, but like it's our baby,
Sure.
you know.
You guys had this album finished before Nameless Grave Records came to sign you guys. How excited were you to find out that they were even interested and wanting to sign you all? What was your guys' first reaction?
Well, so Nameless Grave Records is run by a good friend of mine, Brandon Corsair. And he plays guitar in quite a few bands. He's in sort of like a trad metal type band called Serpent Rider. And he's in Seattle's big old school death metal band is called Drawn and Quartered.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a founding member. He's quite young, but he's breathed a lot of life into that band. And the other guy from Nameless Grave Records is also a friend of mine. It's Andrew Lee from Ripped to Shreds. Great guy. And so like I knew we'd been socially acquainted. Colony Drop had played with Serpent Rider. We played Serpent Rider's first show. It was a great show. It was Serpent Rider first, then us, and then The Accused AD, who are wonderful guys, you know, inspirations to us, hometown heroes, right? And that show was just kind of this big fucking party. It was an absolute blast. And I was just with Brandon at that show. I was like, dude, do you want to put Brace for Impact out? He's like, you should go for like a better label, not a better label, but like a bigger label. He's like, you guys are good. You should aim for the stars with it. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to send it out to everybody, but I love you. And we love him. And it's like, he's our boy. Of course we want to work with him, you know? So we were over the moon when he was like, hell yeah, I'll do it. You know, don't you want to like go for, I don't know, Century Media or whatever? I'm like, I mean, yeah, I'll send him a zip. They're not going to open the email, right?
What led the track Colony Drop Brace for Impact to be the first song released off of this album? What was it about that for you guys that said that's got to be that first one to go out?
Well, for one, it's the name of the band, you know, so you always kind of want to do the Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath on Black Sabbath type deal. We didn't quite do that, but there was like a minute where we didn't have a title, so we were like, what if it's Colony Drop by Colony Drop on Colony Drop? So that seemed to make a lot of sense. That's one thing. The song's lots of fun. It's got that like we call it like the grind polka part near the end, the super fun Time to Circle Pit mosh piece. We thought that's fun. Let's start with that. That seems like starting off on the first foot. And the first thing you hear on the song is me yelling "Brace for Impact," right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of ad-libbed that at practice one time. And I think there was just this sort of unspoken thing between us where I kicked the song off like that, where everyone's like, okay, so that's the first song, right? And that's the title of the song, right? And I'm like, yeah, I guess it is. And it's like, well, if that's first, then that's the title of the album, isn't it? Right? I'm like, I guess it is. And like, what a perfect name for your first record, you know, Brace for Impact. I'm telling you what to do, you know?
Get ready. Here it comes.
Yeah, here it comes. Whatever happens after, I can't guarantee, but at least you were warned, right?
What's the nucleus that keeps you guys moving right along, creating Colony Drop's music, man? What's it about this band that you like seeing moving forward?
I love these dudes. Ryan and Ben are like true artists and genius guitar players. Everyone's a consummate musician in the band. I was kind of like the noob coming in. Everyone else was much more experienced than I was. Even though I'd like been in metal for a long time. Like I promote shows, I did a lot of writing. I mean, I've been in other bands here and there, but nothing that even approached this level of like quality. And the music's challenging but fun to play, and it's challenging in a way where like the challenge makes it fun, right? And everyone just has so much integrity as musicians, as people. You know, we push one another to be better. We push one another to grow, and we care about like art, but also entertainment value. And it's hard to find both of those things in 5 people that get along. And that experience just seems like it's so rare that that happens, maybe once in your life, so I cherish that every day. And I'm like, hell yeah, like I've already won the lottery. I should just keep pushing my luck as far as it can go.
Was there a track for the album that totally ended up sounding different than it was intended to?
At least half of them. So here's the origin story, right? Is one of those bad punk bands I was talking about. I was in pre-pandemic with Ben, one of the lead guitarists, on drums. And Ben knew Ryan from Ryan's other band, Turian. Great band. I was already like in awe of Ryan as a musician from seeing him live with Turian. And Ryan was going to play session bass for Ben and my other band's first show. That first show didn't happen. And then that band kind of dissolved right afterward. But I missed Ben and I missed Ryan. And so out of the blue, Ryan kind of like texted me one day and he's like, yo, we should hang out more. And I was like, yeah, I'm glad it wasn't just playing in that shitty punk band. I want to hang out with you too. So let's hang out. And then it was probably like the next day or something. He just texted me back and he's like, also, I don't want to sing in Turian anymore. Do you want to audition for the singer spot in Turian? And I said, yeah, but I can't tour really. Turian plays a lot and Ryan wanted to tour a lot at that time. This is directly pre-pandemic, right? So he sort of said, hey, I talked it over with the bandmates. We really want someone who can tour with us. So it's not going to happen. Sorry. And I was like, okay, that's, easy come, easy go. I'm just flattered you wanted me to try out. Right. And then like probably 5 minutes later, he texts back and he's like, that said, I have this riff tape from like when he was in college, like years before then. And he was like, I never really knew what to do with it, but I think you'd like it. And he sent me this riff tape and I fucking loved it. And those songs were probably about half of them are still on Brace for Impact in some form or another, but they were stylistically really different. Like, it was really inspired by Entombed and Carcass. And so when Ryan and I talked about the riff tape, he was like, okay, it's going to be a death and roll band, like Wolverine Blues type band. Right. So I thought I was going to growl on everything. And I thought it was going to be way less sophisticated, way more punky. Right. And then we got Ben in and Ben wanted to play lead guitar. I'd never heard him play lead guitar. Turns out he's a ripping lead player. And then really organically it became, we've got 2 ripping lead players. It should be more like Judas Priest. High speed, twin lead. That's the motto. It's on the shirts. It's on the band camp. Like the whole thought was it should be about the twin lead guitar. And we just kept rewriting things to better suit the twin lead. And at some point in time, the conversation became, growling over this stuff doesn't really suit it. You should try your cleans. My cleans are pretty dirty as far as cleans go. But I did. And Ryan and Ben were like, you should just do that for everything. And I was like super taken aback. I was like, I'm proud of my growls. I don't see myself as like a Chuck Billy, and they're like, well, try. So I did. And I was like, is that good? And they were like, yeah, that's fucking great. Let's rewrite everything so it suits that.
Yeah.
So every song from pre-pandemic sounds totally different from the first versions that we wrote. Clockwork Grip, Patient Zero, Guillotine's basically the same. Stand Against the World, like all of the songs from the initial idea behind Colony Drop have undergone basically a total transformation, except the guillotine.
Any tracks standing out more to you than any right now on this album? I know these are your guys' babies, but are there any that are standing out more to you than any?
I'll say this. When we play Stand Against the World live, people know the chorus before the song is done. And I'm really proud of that. Like that's the song where I can like stick the mic into the crowd and people like know the call response stuff, which is crazy for a band that doesn't have an album out. You know, I never really thought that was going to happen ever. And so, you know, when we first started writing Stand, I kind of thought that song was kind of a gag. Like I was like, oh, it's kind of cheesy. It's fun. Deep beat adventure. It was us having fun. Right. But now people respond to that one. And so it sticks out to me. You know, they're all our babies.
Sure.
But I think that one has a little bit of black magic in it.
Any songs that didn't make this album we could see on another album, EP, or just a standalone single possibly from you guys and say, hey, we're still here. We haven't gotten nowhere.
No, we used everything.
Okay.
Well, or the stuff that was cut, because there are songs that have been cut.
Okay.
They've all been deconstructed. And so like they'll never see the light of day the way they were. Now, the riffs from those that we like, we're already writing the second record. And so a lot of those riffs where we're like, we don't quite know what to do with this yet. We're now in this process of looking at them and figuring out how can we make these work for Colony Drop 2.0. You know, Colony Drop the sci-fi thrash band, not Colony Drop the drunk death and roll band, right?
Yeah.
So I think some of those riffs are going to probably see the light of day eventually. Knock on wood.
Now, you just said that you guys are writing on the second album. Are you guys still staying true to the sound on this album, or are you guys doing a little bit different sound?
I'd say, you know, in the future, I mean, it's hard to say, right? Because stuff went through so much transformation before the first record. But I think we've found, you know, I think Brace for Impact is pretty fully developed. I think we have a pretty mature sound for a band on a first record. Again, you know, that's from pandemic, right? Like that's from like having all this time to refine it. So I think the second record is going to continue that style and maybe try and push our limits as players more. I know I'm trying to push my limits as a vocalist. I'm trying to develop my sense of melody much more. And I'm also trying to work on speed personally. I heavy metal is my first love. It'll be my last love. But I also love hip hop. And I especially like a lot of the sort of fast battle rappers. So right now, at least I'm kind of looking at these songs. I'm like, they're blasting. Why can't I be blasting? I should be blasting with syllables. Why not? Right. So I'm working on speed and attack. I think Ben, Ryan, and Ari are working on how to make melodies that work with all three stringed instruments not playing the same note. You know, they've been listening to a lot of Megadeth, Rust in Peace right now. So it's gonna be fun. How's that?
How's the fans' feedback been, Joseph, on the release of this new single, Colony Drop, Brace for Impact? What's been good that you've been seeing back from all this feedback?
We've received basically uniformly positive feedback. I think I saw one dude on Twitter was like, it's not quite as hard as Power Trip. And I'm like, well, yeah, because we're not Power Trip.
Jeez.
So I mean, fair, I mean, true, I guess, but like I'm not going for that, so fine. Never read the comment threads, man. Whatever. You've been doing this for 13 years, you know, fuck the comment threads.
That's right.
I love you lovers in the comments. I'm just not gonna fucking read it. But yeah, I mean, all the feedback's been super positive, like more positive than I was expecting. So that's great. I'd love for it to translate into some ticket sales for some shows, because we'd like to get out there. Like we've never played outside of Seattle. I know we want to play Portland really badly. Portland is a party. We want to play the whole West Coast. We all have connections in the Bay Area and in Los Angeles. You know, my wife is from South Bay. I was born in Midwest. I'd love to eventually get out there, you know? So the more people stream it, the more people buy it, the more people review it. Even just like giving a follow on Spotify or something, that's more like information that we can take to promoters and say, hey, you know, roll the dice on us.
Yeah.
We're good live. I promise you that. I can say that with confidence. We're really good live.
Is the track listing placement important for your album releases going forward?
Absolutely. Yeah. We debated the track list and the flow of things endlessly. I think we did come up with like the perfect arrangement for these songs now. But there was like a long time where, you know, Heartfelt and Heart Wrench is sort of like this two-parter. And for a long time, I thought, you know, it's got the instrumental intro that should be first. And usually we play Heartfelt first when we play live. It's like our walk on pump you up thing, right? So I thought that should be first on the record. But then it was the other guys who were like, nah, dude, brace for impact. It's do that, right? So things like that. My favorite song is the last one, is The Goof. And I liked it so much that I initially thought, oh, it should be like second or third so people can hear it. But then we were like, no, it's like the meanest song. So what if it's at the end? What if it's like the boss fight, right? Like listening to the records, like playing an arcade game. And at the end, you've got to fight the Goof. It's like, that's fun. That made a lot of sense. I was like, hell yeah, it goes last.
Is it crucial to stay true to your guys' metal roots, to catchy riffs, vocal hooks, blistering solos, and just no bullshit, but also being able to add that modern twist with your music?
Hell yeah. It's the most important thing. I mean, like, we all listen to contemporary metal. How could you not? There's so much of it, and so much of it's good. But, you know, if I'm honest, I think we all do sort of collectively feel that there's something that's been missing, or not missing, but just isn't at the forefront the way it always was, or the way maybe it felt like it was when we were kids, right? And that was the fun factor, the songwriting factor, a riff you can remember, a chorus you can remember, right? So when we sort of did this soft recalibration of the band to make it more thrashy, we sort of consciously said, let's not listen to like new shit. Let's think about what made you happy when you were 12, when you were 13. We were like riding your bike around the block and going faster, faster, faster. And then you hit a rock or something and flipped over and busted your head open, but you were smiling about it, right? What were you listening to when you did that, right? And for us, it was like Judas Priest, Painkiller, Megadeth, Rust in Peace, I mentioned, Metallica, every Metallica record, every Slayer record, right? Testament, Carcass too, you know, Heartwork, that's still in there. But like, for me, Bolt Thrower, right? But, you know, that is sort of where we come from at the core, is like, be the band that you wished you'd heard when you were that age, right? Because not a lot of people are doing that right now. There's some great ones, you know. I love Eternal Champion. I want Power Trip to come back. I do love them. Hopefully they get a new singer soon. Rest in peace, Riley Gale. You are an inspiration.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, there's a local band called Solicitor. They're based in Seattle and Portland. Great speed metal band. Their vocalist Amy is a friend and kind of a mentor. I look to her for advice quite often. I think they're also trying to bring things back to the way they felt when you were a kid. I don't want to like pretend like the 80s were better than now, because that's not true, right? To me, I like living in the modern age. I like technology, kind of. I like a lot of modern metal. I don't think things were better before necessarily, but there was an element of purity, of songwriting purity, of fun for fun's sake, that I think sometimes we've kind of lost. And like, I love super extreme stuff too. Like I listen to Primitive Man. Conate did a new record. I've listened to Conate record. You know, that stuff's great, but it's like a wall of evil, which is cool, but that's not all I want out of life. People are doing that great, right? People don't need another wall of evil band.
No, I agree with that.
So we thought this is something we could do that wasn't being done so much.
How special is it to have guitarists Benjamin Burton and Ryan Moon creating their sound and just seeing them feed off each other and work together?
It's the most inspiring thing in the world to me. They're both like total riff lords, and they push one another to be better. And it was really, like, for me, really inspiring to watch them like learn to solo with one another, if that makes sense, because they really are kind of like a classic lead team, the way that, how do I put it? Right, so Judas Priest, right? Like, Glenn Tipton, god tier guitarist. KK Downing, also god tier guitarist. wish they still got along. I understand that they don't. Shit happens, right? But they have different styles, right? Like, Tipton has this he's the more like fretboardy, up and down, arpeggiating at high speed guy, and Downing is this like total tone guy, total like big bending chord, almost like noisy. And Ryan and Ben also differentiate like that, where they specialize in different things and they feed off one another, but they don't mimic one another. And like, that's like, who does that anymore? No one does that anymore. Maybe Blood Incantation, but I couldn't tell you which dude in Blood Incantation plays which solo, right? So who else? Tribulation, I guess Tribulation does that. I love them. But in thrash, nobody. I mean, every modern solo is like a whammy bomb. You know, it's like, pick my guitar up and shake it by the whammy bar, which is cool. Love me some dive bombs. But if you've got two dudes like Ryan and Ben, why would you do that? You'd be like, no, you guys go off.
Brace for Impact was recorded and engineered by Nicholas Wilbur at the Unknown Studios and by your guys' guitarist Ryan Moon at Buster Room Recordings, and mixed and mastered by Alex Farrer at Drop of Sun Studios. How was working with all these guys on this creation?
Dope. I mean, great. The Unknown is this super cool studio. It's like an old church. It's a retrofitted church. So it's huge. It's got this insane reverb on it. And Nick Wilbur, nice dude, like one of the kindest human beings I've ever met, but like very professional. So like, he does a bunch of projects. It was fun kind of like coming in. He didn't really like know the band much at first. So we come in, start playing the songs. It was kind of fun to see his face. You're like, oh, you guys are like a heavy band. Oh, you guys are like a really heavy band. Oh, he's like, look at me. While I'm sitting like, we're not that heavy. Like, we're heavy. We're not that heavy. So like, having him, I think he kind of got this little like bit of glee when he heard like kind of the wildness of the material. It was fun to watch him get excited about it. He's like, I haven't listened to Slayer in so long. It's fun to be able to do this. I was like, do you have any other like heavy bands here? And he's like, yeah, like there's these local bands, Witch Ripper and Death Cave, that have recorded there too, but they're doom bands. you know? So like him getting to record Eric blasting was very, very fun. Obviously I know Ryan very well. Alex Farrar is Ryan's old buddy and has mastered a bunch of the Turian records. So I've actually never spoken with Alex. But I think he did a great job, you know. It for how punk the recording was, and like, you know, how like by the seat of our pants everything was in terms of budget. I think he did a great job. I think everything sounds fucking dope.
The album artwork was done by Matt Sticker. How was work with him? Did he get exactly what you guys were looking for?
Exactly what we were looking for. He's the man. But he's a real pro. He's on Instagram as Bargain Bin Blasphemy. Great fucking name. He's also in this like kind of like Black Death prog band from Portland called Drouth. So like I'd seen him play many times. We knew each other like kind of a little bit over the years, but he's a really phenomenal artist. He's done like Magic the Gathering card art, like on the cards. He's also done album covers for like, frankly, much bigger bands than us. Waking the Cadaver, you know, Waking the Cadaver cover. He's done t-shirts for fucking everybody. He's dope. So basically I was just like, I think my wife and I were going to Los Angeles and I was just scrolling through Instagram and he had this sketch of a planet exploding. And I just screen capped it and sent it to the band chat. And I was like, so this is the album art, right? Right? And like 5 minutes later, everyone's like, yep. Have a spaceship running into it. And it's perfect. Yep. So it was super easy to just email Matt and be like, you did this. We want this. Here's the album. If you want to listen to it, here's a little, you know, Google Drive link. And, you know, can it just have a colony dropping on it? He was like, give me a couple months. Here's the price. Price sounds good. It came back. We were like, yep, fucking gold. Print it, ship it. Hi, kitty.
Now we're going to get to know Joseph here just a little bit about your likings here, okay?
Sure.
So if you could write an album equivalent to your favorite band's album, which album would that be? And I know there's probably a lot, but there's got to be one that if you could write an equivalent album to, what would it be?
Let me tell you what. That right there is a first edition Master of Puppets LP.
That's what I'm talking about.
I like underground shit, and I do listen to not metal stuff. I listen to a lot of like, I've got folk and jazz, a lot of 70s rock, and like, I'm not saying culture ended in 1986, but I think that is the perfect electric guitar album. I think there's nothing about it I would fucking change.
It's a masterpiece.
It's a true masterpiece. I think there is no other metal record that makes me feel what that makes me feel. So I don't know how to top it. I don't know how to match it. What James Hetfield was feeling when he did like Disposable Heroes is like, that's pathos I don't know if I have in my soul, right? But give Colony Drop 2 more albums, we're gonna give it a shot. We're gonna give it. Let me tell you what. I was listening to Kill 'Em All when we wrote Brace for Impact, like, because I was like, what's a great first record sound like? You know, raw nerve and fun. What's a great third record sound like? Let me explain to you what evil is, right? Give us two more records, and I'm gonna try and get you my version of a Master of Puppets.
I'll tell you what right now, and everybody knows this, and they're probably sick and tired of me saying it, but I do not care. If it hadn't been for that album right there hanging on your wall, Master of Puppets, I would not be on this planet right now.
Listen, a couple years ago, I saw Armored Saint open for Metal Church here at I think it was Armored Saint's reunion tour. I love John Bush as a singer. And John Bush is there talking with Armored Sin. He says something like, man, this is the best time I've had in Seattle since we opened for Metallica on the Ride the Lightning tour. And some dude in the front row yelled, fuck Metallica. And John Bush said, fuck Metallica? You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, none of you would be here if it wasn't for that band. He's like, fuck Metallica. Fuck you, dude. And I was like, John Bush tells it like it is.
Yeah. It's the truth, man. It's the God's honest truth. I don't care what anybody says. If there's at least one song that somebody loves by Metallica, you could say they sold out. Yes, they did every fucking arena that they play at. Plain and simple.
If they don't sell every seat, they probably have like a board meeting. They're like, what happened? Who fucked up? I want their head on Lars's plate.
I mean, that band adapted. I don't care what anybody says. That band adapted. They did what they had to do, and I still think they fucking kill it to this day.
I love it. I one of the episodes I listened to today was your little round table on 72 seasons. And
thanks, man.
You know, I didn't get through all of it. I must admit, just because I don't have 90 uninterrupted minutes in my life ever. But I like the new record. I like their new records. There's some stuff I like on Saint Anger. I like Hate Me.
Anger. Yeah, I like Saint Anger. That album grew on me. Like same way. You don't like it, don't fucking listen to it. We like it. So
sure. I feel the same. I think they're a great band, and you know, I think a lot of people's critiques of them are like warranted, but like you weigh like Bert Lars's snare drum, burp. I'm like, okay, yes. Does it sound bad? Sure. Weigh Lars's snare drum against everything on that. Like, there's no comparison. It's a feather against a brick. Like, who cares?
And it's like when they got with Fleming Rasmussen on that album, it's like, oh God, here's the magician right now that's getting ready to take this band to another level. And man, he sure enough did. That was a dark album right there.
Absolutely.
Very dark album. For me, like I said, man, during that time, I never knew that I needed music as much as I needed that album in my life. For sure.
The measure of a piece of art is, I think, its ability to touch people's hearts. That sounds really fucking wimpy from a metal guy, right? It's kind of wimpy. Maybe we should go listen to Deathspell Omega or something. No hearts. They have some album titled about hearts. Whatever. Nerds, losers. I'm not a big black metal guy, but like that sounds wimpy, but I think it's true. What metal band has touched like more hearts than them? Right?
And what metal band out there doesn't make you feel like an outcast or makes you feel like you belong to a group, you know, of friends, and it's always there. You can just put it on. Isn't
that like what people want out of this music, is to feel?
I hope so.
Look, we just met, right?
Yeah.
And we have something in common, and we're sharing a moment, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of creative expression. That's what it's here for, I think.
Right. You
know, so that, and it crosses, you know, your identity divides, political divides, social, economic. It like, if something speaks to you, that's like a power, like the raw physics of the universe.
I'll say it right now, and if people can, don't listen to the podcast or not, that's totally fine. That's that's what you want to do. That's totally fine. But if Taylor Swift or John Mayer or Kanye, I don't care who it is out there that you gravitate to, and they pull you through stuff, and it gets you through the day, so be it.
I agree completely. And I see.
Yeah.
I kind of like Taylor Swift. Don't hate. Ooh, hate me. Ooh, it's bad. Like, Red's a good album. Fuck you. Like,
a good song's a good song. Good album's a good album.
Song is a good song. It's like, I love metal because I love metal, right? But my love of other things doesn't make my love of metal decrease. I actually think I love metal more the more I love other things, because I can appreciate the differences and the commonalities. It makes like my feelings toward each individual thing richer, I think. And maybe other people, maybe that's just not other people's life experience, right? That's just not the way their like brains are wired or whatever. And that's okay. But like, don't yell at other people for them having a different life experience than you do. Like, art is so intimate.
Exactly. All right, Joseph, this new album for Colony will drop on August 25th via Nameless Grave Records. And you guys want to get out there and pick this album up. So how can folks do that? Stay in touch with Colony Drop. Keep in touch with everything that you guys do. How can they do that, good sir?
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. That said, I personally recommend the Instagram. I'm sorry, it just looks like copies of our LP right now. We're also on Bandcamp. We love to see people's little supports on the Bandcamps. And if you're in the Pacific Northwest and you really want to keep in touch, come to a show. We'll tell you what, a week after Brace for Impact comes out, we're playing Tacoma at the Spanish Ballroom. We're playing first on a little fest called Sabretooth. We're playing with Helms Ali, Year of the Cobra, and two really special bands. The headliners are Yob and one of the last Ludicrous shows ever. Like they're calling it quits again. I think a week later. They're doing Tacoma, then Portland, then San Francisco, and then that's it for them. So if you want to come hang out with us, come to that fest. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to shake your hand. I'll drink a beer with you if you partake. If you don't, that's dope. More power to you. And I'd love to sell you an album and talk to you about fucking thrash, dude. We're here for it.
Before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for my show?
This is Joseph Schafer from Colony Drop, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up. You only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please get out, check out our Facebook page. There's our podcast link and our YouTube link. And please subscribe to the YouTube link. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe, because I would truly, truly appreciate it. I know all these bands would truly appreciate it. So get out and check out Colony Drop. Pick up this new album that they got coming out on August 25th via Nameless Grave Records. Brace for Impact. Give them a fair shot, guys and gals. I know you guys will like them. So, Joseph, thank you so much for doing the interview, and I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck, my friend.
Thank you for having me. It's been a really wonderful time.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.